Parks and Rec controversy is just one issue that has spotlighted what looks like an increasingly tense racial divide in this community. What specifically can and should a mayor do to bring together a community divided over race or anything else? Mr. Anthony?
I think, first of all, we need to listen to the citizens, and when they have a concern to us, we need to address that issue. I think there is racial tension. I think there's some economic tension in our community, and the people need to have a forum by which that is addressed. So I would propose that we would have a council of clergy, because clergy often hear concerns from their citizens and have that as an active way of being able to listen to the people, and have 31 on it so that they have a responsibility, one per day. If you hear something, I want you to share it, and then collectively come together, talk about it. I think we ought to engage our civic organizations and the heads of those civic organizations so that they too likewise will come and share with us concerns that are being raised, but also solutions. A lot of people can talk about problems, but I'm going to challenge these different organizations to come up with solutions. The business world is engaged in taking care of problems and problem solving within their own structure. So what the next step would be to have a business roundtable in which they talk about concerns that they hear from the business perspective. I know the Chamber of Commerce exists to accomplish some of those things, so they probably have a slightly better venue and avenue in which to communicate that. But we need to hear from the business community. What are the concerns you have? Maybe even what are the plans that you have? What are the needs that you have, and how can we as a city help? Because I think many of the businesses are addressing the diversity in the workplace. They have workshops continuously. Why don't we do some more diversity in the marketplace, helping people understand what's going on? I think the fourth issue is to engage the educational system in a more active way. Young people, One Columbus sponsors some events in January and February. Dare to Dream Summit, some of you have been to this, where we have some high school students to come and talk about what things they see. We tried it one year, if you remember, having some of the business people join them, and that was a great experience for them to hear young people and their perspectives on some of the concerns they have in the community and some of the things that we still are struggling with, but they are working it out within their own sector, and be able to hear from them. Engaging our young people while they're in middle school and high school to see what are issues, and again, come back to the churches and neighborhood associations that are out there everywhere, hearing from them, but also sharing with them things that we can do collectively as a community. So I think utilizing the organizations that already exist in the venues to address the racial, economic, and political tensions that are in our community.
Well, I think one of the reasons we keep having these reoccurring issues, it's been Parks and Rec, of course, the shooting death of Kenneth Walker, and many other very tragic circumstances have resulted in further dividing the community. And one of the reasons I think that those things resonate in what seems to be a very racial, or is a very racial way, is because it's being built on a foundation of an economically segregated community. And when we have an economically segregated community in any city in the United States of America, that has gender and age and racial overtones, because more elderly live in poverty, more women tend to live in poverty, and more minorities tend to live in poverty. So again, if you have grown in such a way to leave huge areas of economic distress in your communities, if you have not as a municipality gone back in and aggressively partnered with the private market to bring reinvestment and economic opportunities and a vibrancy to those communities, then you necessarily have a community where the disparities of investment, public or private, are quite apparent to everyone. And everything that happens to the community, every stressor that happens to the community, tends to break down and will actually feed into that disparity narrative. And I think that's what you're seeing over and over again as the years go on. I think it's just imperative that the next mayor make a new and fresh effort to come back in and make sure that all of Columbus, Georgia has prosperity, strong community, healthy community, resources, not just economically, but again with residential neighborhood associations. There's all sorts of things you can do to build up the fabric of a community. And in large measure, I think the municipality has sat back over the years and just sort of let things rock on. And I think we're paying the price for that. So we need to get aggressive about rethinking the way we're growing and investing in this community. I would say, secondly, you have dialogue and fellowship is great. We have conferences from time to time, and those are wonderful things, but it's just painting over a hole in the wall if you're not addressing these other issues of disparity in the community. But I certainly think respect and reasonableness among city leaders can only help and facilitate.
Yes. On Parks and Rec issue, in recent years, basically the spotlighted was this Parks and Recreation situation. I had a real problem with Ed DeBose. He's a personal friend of mine. He's a state NAACP president. When he would try to make it more of a racial issue than it was a fiscal issue itself. And I talked to him on a personal basis, and I said, Ed, the last thing we need to do is create division in this city. And when you basically sensationalize something like this, then what you're doing is you're working on people's inner feelings, and you're dividing people, and you don't need to do that. Now, if you take a look here, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I received from the NAACP, and it was a Courageous Award. And that was something that was given to me on my part as far as making sure that Baker Middle School got built, Orchard Grove Mobile Home Park tenants there were not just kicked out on the street. So I've worked in concert with them time and time again. Now, the one thing when I went in front of the city council, I said there needs to be parity and equality. Now, when you're targeting one department like Parks and Recreation and you find a real situation that we have at hand, then, like I said before, as your next mayor, I will ensure that all departments and all authorities and all boards and all commissions are audited. Now, we don't have that going right now for the medical center. And the thing is that with Spring Harbor, $6.3 million in property taxes is far greater than the $200,000 that we're looking at Tony Adams. We also look at Karen Smith and Roland Thacker. Karen Smith is the secretary for the Larry Sanders at Columbus Regional Healthcare Systems, Inc. And the thing is Roland Thacker is the CFO. There are non-members, I repeat, non-members. Karen lives over in Alabama, and Roland lives up in Harris County. They cannot even be members, but yet the 9 members, and 2 of them shouldn't even be on the board because they're in conflict with the city charter too, and that's Dr. McMicken, who is the chairperson of the Medical Center Authority, who also sits on the board of the on the Columbus Regional Healthcare. Same with Dr. Gorham. There are so many improprieties. We have Counselor Julius Hunter, who votes each and every year for that money, that $3 million to go to Columbus Regional. So there's not just one problem out there right now as we speak. I'm going to make sure that all these are addressed, and that if there's somebody who's going to be enforcing law, that's going to be me. The community development block grant money, that's from HUD. It's $2 million. $1.2 million for the next 20 years. That's $24 million is going to TSIS campus. Instead, that money was earmarked specifically for the poor, the fixed income, and the elderly. And I will ensure that it's being used in that manner. Thank you.
Absolutely. This question actually has a lot of dynamics that feed into it. For one, I would like to say, first of all, if you want someone else to support you and to respect you and to treat you in a certain manner, you must first start to have that self-pride in yourself. And this goes further than just one group of people, one demographic, goes to a community, goes to a neighborhood, and even a city. And therefore, I believe that it first starts in the family. You know, we have to, each group, each person, no matter who you are, you have to start to teach self-motivation. You have to teach self-pride. You have to teach the value that that is intrinsic in each person. And once you do that, then that person holds himself or herself and carries themselves with a certain dignity. And if you want somebody else to support you, then you must first start to support yourself. If we want our neighborhoods to be supported, then we must first start to get the pride back in each neighborhood. If we want our city to be respected, then we must first start to respect and also support what comes out of our city. This even comes with the bids that is offered for city contracts. If we're not supporting our own contractors, then how can we promote Columbus and ensure a better Columbus? Else what we're doing is collecting the tax dollars from our citizens and we're giving the goods for somebody else. How can we market ourselves when we're respecting and supporting things outside of our city? So it goes not only to a city, goes not only to a neighborhood, not only just to a family, a house, but it starts with the individual. The second thing is I believe that we need to stop calling each neighborhood by sides of town, whether you're in North Columbus or South Columbus. Start calling the neighborhoods out by subdivision. It happened in East Highland. When we report crime, it shouldn't be what happened in South Columbus. It should be what happened in Benning Hills, what happened in the Hilton Avenue area, all of the Belmar Estates, Cedar Hills. What you start to do is you bring back that pride in the neighborhood. It used to be where the neighborhood, the citizens, actually named the subdivision, which meant that they had the pride in the subdivision that they named, and they made sure that the area was well kept. So I believe, and what I have continuously promoted is to let's engage the citizens in early planning of whatever we do or develop in every area. And when you get that engagement of the citizens early, then what you also get is the community buy-in, and they will not only help develop it and see the plans through, but they also help to sustain it as well. And that way, no matter what side of town you're on, then you'll see that there's self-pride and there's pride in that particular area as well. So, I'm also about, we need to also make sure that we handle and do what we say we're going to do, because when you betray citizens' trust, then there's more apathy and there's less engagement and participation between or amongst one particular group of people than it is with another.